Hi, I'm Len Witt, and I'm here with Paula Kerger from PBS. She's the president and CEO, and we're in Atlanta, and she just gave a presentation to the Atlanta Press Club in which she talked a lot about the need for higher quality journalism. And my question to you, Paula, is so what role does PBS have in producing this higher quality journalism?
Well, we have a significant role, and that's some of the material that we're producing now, whether it's the NewsHour, whether it's some of the news and public affairs programs we produce, such as Now, Washington Week, and so forth. And as we look across the broadcast spectrum at what the other news organizations are doing, we are now spending some time really thinking about what role public television should play over the next few years and how our coverage should evolve both in a broadcast as well as in new media.
Okay. My own feeling is there's a void now in television news. There's a lot of talking heads. There's
I
not
agree with
very
that.
much narrative news being done. I think the State of the News Media report said there's about 18 minutes of narrative news being done each day, which 3 stations do, and they do it over and over again. So why isn't PBS filling that void like National Public Radio did when radio news disappeared? That's my question.
Well, I think that we are, obviously looking at ways to expand our work. I mean, the problem that we have is that we are a variety service. We have a very deep commitment to kids. We do 7 hours minimum of children's programming a day. We have other programs in our schedule. So we're a little different than radio, which was already deeply in the news business. They also are in the news gathering business, which we are not. But as we think about our work and we look at different ways that we can continue to partner with National Public Radio, we obviously are thinking very carefully about what role we will play in news coverage moving forward. And I think as we look at what the rest of the news organizations are doing, there's an obvious role for high quality reporting and journalism, and I think that is a place for us. The challenge for us always is then carving out the resources to make that happen. And resources now are extremely tight. You've got series like the NewsHour that have struggled to keep their funding cobbled together. So part of it is creating the opportunity for the reporting and to build out the programs, and then the other piece for us will be and then figuring out where the money will come from to actually make it happen.
Yeah, well, the money coming from is the big question, not only for public broadcasting, but now for commercial
Yeah,
news
and
gathering.
that's in fact why I feel the stronger imperative that we need to figure this out, because I think we see the consequence of marketplace driven journalism, I should say. And so I think that there is obviously a place that we need to take up, scope of work that we need to take up, and it's up to us to figure out how to accomplish that with the resources that we have. When you look at our work and what we're able to do with a relatively small amount of money, if you look at public broadcasters around the world, we're sort of at the bottom in this country in terms of our investment in public media, and so we are looking for ways that we can further leverage the resources that we have. As I said, I think that there are some opportunities for us to work even closer with public radio. They have really made a huge commitment to news gathering, and in part they've been able to do that because they were the beneficiaries of a substantial bequest from Joan Kroc, which helped them create an endowment which has given them some of the resources to shore up their journalism. So I am looking for public television's version of Joan Kroc, but outside of that, I think that there is a lot that we can do with the given resources that we have, just with some reallocation, but also trying to bring some more partners to the table. There are some foundations, there are some individuals that I know care very deeply about journalism, are very concerned with what they see happening in commercial media, and so I do think that there is an opportunity for us if we can figure out the right place.
Have you? Are you not going to get into the news gathering business? You say you're not into it. That's a space where I think is.
Well, we're not in it now, I
Okay,
should say.
okay.
I mean, our real strength in public television has been in analysis and context. I would not say that the NewsHour is not a news gathering organization. They really, and so we don't have the same sort of infrastructure that public radio has had. They have news bureaus all over the country, all over the world, I should say. And at a time when most news organizations are retrenching with their their foreign news bureaus. NPR has continued to expand and to add additional places. I think since we're public media that we should figure out how to work with them to take some advantage of their journalism and see where we can be additive to that. So I think the question for us is not been fully resolved as to exactly what our role will be moving forward, but I think that we see a great need for sound journalism. You also, you have the evolution of these news organizations like ProPublica, and how that begins to evolve, I think will also be of interest to us.
Yeah. Can I make my little pitch for my idea, which I think will help, and then you can kind of say yay or nay on it?
Sure.
It'll take a minute. You can hold this while I do that, okay? My idea is called representative journalism, and I see for PBS, the price has dropped now to produce television, especially for the internet, to about what it is on radio. So your cost wouldn't be any more than National Public Radio's costs are. Would it be possible if PBS said, we are going to do video work around the country? Could you find 1,000 people in each state to support one reporter for that pool? Then you'd instantly have 50 reporters. Each person in that 1,000 would put up, let's say, $100. And that's kind of it. And you'd have a person going out with them to build that network of 1,000 people. That person would get maybe 15% or about $15,000 to raise it. And then you'd have $85,000, pay the reporter, paying expenses, paying equipment. And the equipment now is all backpack equipment. So you're really talking, $14,000, $15,000 you could outfit that particular person. Then in addition to that, you might go to a place like Georgia. Georgia says, well, we're interested in water issues. Can you find another 1,000 people in Georgia to put up $100 each to have the water issue covered? Michigan, it's industry. North Carolina, they already do it actually for the innovation desk. So then you'd have 100 people. 100 people, let's say they produce 1 3-minute story every other day. You would have 50 pieces coming up a day on the internet. Divide that by the 16 hours a day, you'd have 3 new pieces constantly coming up there. And somebody like Mike first says, it's frequency and personal attachment. You all have the gravitas, you have the brand name, you have the infrastructure. So what's wrong with that idea?
Well, I think it's an interesting idea. I think that, again, as we look at how to do some reporting out, I think one of the places that I would love to look is actually a network of journalists that do exist, because, as you said, the cost of journalism for the web is not significantly greater than radio. And here we have 600 plus radio stations around the country, of which many have news operations. So I think what we'd like to be able to do is to really look at what it is that we can create. I do think that, and I agree with you, that the opportunity to have some content available online that's produced specifically for online, out of which some could be pulled out for broadcast.
Sure.
And that is very much a part of what we're thinking about now. What we're looking at as we think about our news and public affairs work moving forward is building out work that is broadcast, but that also very much has an online piece. And I'm not talking about creating something for broadcast and then just importing it online. I don't think any news organization has really figured out how to best use the online space as a way to bring journalism together, and frankly also to get the community involved. So I don't know about this idea of getting 1,000 people to contribute $100, but I do think that there is a scale that is a possibility for us to figure out. And I do think looking for journalists around the country that are covering issues that really would have national interest, and I think issues of water, issues of around education, some of the big issues
Sure.
that the new administration will be taking up, is something that I'd be interested in following. So.
Yeah. And the idea is, this is not just, you're not just throwing what I say electronic newspaper on, an online doorstep.
That's right.
But these 1,000 people are truly 100% interested in, let's
Yeah.
say, endangered species in Florida.
Right.
So they're part of an information community. They're helping the reporter as well as supporting the reporter. And there's an intimate connection there between the reporter and that news community.
Interesting idea, and it's one that we should continue.
Okay, thank you very much for your
Thanks
time.
a lot.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Right.